There is a frequency so specific, so precise, that when you enter it and stay there for even 7 minutes, your perception of time begins to dissolve, and the world around you starts to shift in ways that feel impossible to explain. Not because you're hallucinating, not because you're detached from reality, but because you've finally synced with a layer of consciousness that most people never touch. This is not about motivation or mindset or even thought. It's about entering a vibrational state where your identity merges with the energy of creation itself. And once you're in that state, reality no longer feels solid. It begins to bend around you. Joseph Murphy spoke often about the mind as the builder of form. But what he truly pointed to was that the subconscious mind, when deeply impressed, doesn't wait for time to organize outcomes. It collapses time. It reorganizes the field to reflect the signal you're broadcasting. And most people have never held that signal long enough for reality to catch up. They pulse in and out of it, switching frequencies based on emotion, distraction, or doubt. But when you hold it, purely, consistently, for just a few minutes, reality starts to respond instantly. You feel it first in the body, then in the air around you, then in the sequence of events that follow. The world doesn't distort randomly. It bends around consistency, around certainty, around the vibration that no longer hopes or asks, but simply becomes. That's why this isn't about doing more. It's about sustaining a state long enough for the illusion to crack. You don't have to force outcomes when you vibrate in alignment with the version of you that already lives in them. And when you do, even for 7 uninterrupted minutes, something ancient wakes up. Not outside of you, but within. This isn't magic. It's law. You're not bending the rules. You're finally operating from the level where the rules were written. For years, we've been told to think positively, to repeat affirmations, to reframe every emotion, to force a smile even when everything inside is breaking. But what if that very effort to be positive is what's lowering your frequency? What if the pressure to maintain a certain mindset is the very thing keeping you out of alignment? This is the paradox no one talks about. Positive thinking, when it's not rooted in real vibrational coherence, becomes resistance in disguise. Joseph Murphy taught that the subconscious responds not to surface thoughts, but to the deeper emotional atmosphere behind them. You can say, "I am abundant," 1,000 times, but if the energy behind your words is anxiety, disbelief, or emptiness, then that's the real signal being broadcasted. The subconscious doesn't listen to your lips. It listens to your state. And pretending to feel good while suppressing everything else only creates internal noise. That noise blocks the field. It scatters the signal. It delays the manifestation. True frequency elevation doesn't come from pushing negative thoughts away. It comes from moving through them, observing them without identification, allowing them to dissolve in awareness. When you stop judging your emotions, you stop reinforcing them. When you stop forcing a mindset, you create space for real presence. And presence is the most magnetic state you can embody. Not fake joy, not scripted positivity, but raw, grounded presence that accepts exactly where you are without clinging to where you think you should be. This is why people get stuck repeating the same affirmations for years with no shift, because they're speaking from a fractured state, trying to climb vibrationally while ignoring the heaviness underneath. But when you drop the performance, when you simply breathe and feel and allow, something profound happens. You become real. You stop trying to be spiritual and start vibrating in truth. And truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is always a higher frequency than illusion. So forget the pressure to be positive. Instead, become aligned. Because alignment doesn't require you to feel good all the time. It requires you to be honest. And that honesty clears the static and opens the field, where real transformation can finally begin. Most people are living in survival without even knowing it. Waking up in a rush, thinking from fear, making decisions from scarcity, reacting instead of creating. Survival isn't just about extreme circumstances. It's a frequency, a low, dense field that keeps the nervous system alert, the thoughts repetitive, and the future always uncertain. It's the vibrational state of just getting by, hoping something outside will shift. But nothing truly shifts until you do, and there is a threshold, an invisible line, between survival and creation. Once you cross it, everything changes. Joseph Murphy made it clear. The subconscious mind creates not from panic, but from pattern. And survival patterns are rooted in avoidance, of failure, of rejection, of loss. But creation requires the opposite. It demands presence, trust, and the willingness to feel fully alive. Most never make the jump because they're trying to create a new life while still thinking like the version of themselves that's just trying to survive. And that vibration is incompatible with expansion. You can't hold the frequency of limitation and expect to receive abundance. The signal won't match. To move from survival to creation isn't about faking confidence or forcing action. It's about slowing down enough to feel where you are broadcasting from. It's about recognizing the survival programs running in the background, the fear of not having enough, of not being enough, of losing what little you've gained. And once you see them, you stop feeding them. You begin choosing differently, thought by thought, breath by breath, until a new baseline begins to emerge, not one rooted in control, but in coherence. This shift doesn't take years. It takes moments of pure awareness, repeated with intention. You stop reacting to life and begin responding to it. You stop negotiating with your worth and start anchoring in your presence. And when you hold that new frequency, even for 7 focused minutes, the energy around you begins to recalibrate. You're no longer just surviving a reality you didn't choose. You're generating a new one, not from desperation, but from signal. Because creation isn't something you do, it's something you tune into. And that tuning is the threshold that changes everything. There is a place within you that doesn't flinch when things go wrong, that doesn't collapse under pressure, that doesn't chase pleasure or run from pain. It watches, it witnesses, it knows. This is the observer state, a level of consciousness that exists beyond emotion, beyond thought, beyond story. It's not detached, but it is free. And the moment you learn to rest there, even for a few minutes, your vibration begins to stabilize in a way that no external practice can replicate. Because in the observer, there is no conflict. And where there's no conflict, the field starts to open. Joseph Murphy hinted at this often, that true manifestation comes not from effort, but from alignment with the deeper self. And the observer is the portal to that self. When you're caught in emotion, you're entangled. The frequency you emit is reactive, unstable, tied to circumstances. But when you shift into the role of the one who sees, without judgment, without resistance, you stop being pulled by the waves and start realizing you are the ocean, the space in which everything arises, but which itself remains untouched. This doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you stop becoming it. Anger can pass through, fear can rise and fall, doubt can echo, but none of it defines you unless you choose to identify. And the more you practice witnessing, the more those emotions lose their grip. Your nervous system calms, your breath deepens, your field clears, and in that clarity your signal sharpens. You're no longer emitting from reaction, you're transmitting from essence. In the 7-minute state practice, this shift is subtle but powerful. You might still feel emotion, but it no longer owns you. You no longer spiral into the story. You remain in presence, and presence, as always, is magnetic. You begin to notice reality bending not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped distorting the signal with unconscious interference. The field responds to coherence, and coherence is born when you return to the seat of the observer. Here, in this state, you are not trying to control life. You are becoming aware that life is responding to your awareness. And that awareness, quiet, still, undisturbed, is the frequency reality cannot ignore. What you see, touch, and call real is not as fixed as it seems. The walls, the objects, the sequence of events, all of it feels solid only because your nervous system interprets it that way. But at the foundation of it all, reality is not made of matter. It's made of vibration, of fields, of frequencies folding into form. And that form is not absolute. It's reactive. It responds to the observer. It responds to the signal. It responds to you. Joseph Murphy didn't speak in the language of quantum physics, but he understood the principle. That reality is not something you walk into, it's something you participate in. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your emotional baseline, these are not passive filters, they are commands. And the field around you organizes itself in accordance with them, not because you asked, but because you are constantly emitting the frequency of what you believe to be true, even when you're unaware of it. This is why holding a specific vibration for just 7 minutes can begin to distort what you call real. Because the moment your frequency shifts, your perception shifts, and perception is the gateway to a different timeline. Suddenly, opportunities appear that didn't seem to exist before. People treat you differently without knowing why. Coincidences begin to stack. It's not luck, it's resonance. The field isn't resisting you, it's mirroring the you that you've chosen to become. But here's what keeps most people stuck. They believe in the solidity of their current life. They believe in the permanence of their circumstances. And belief, being vibrational, reinforces the very reality they wish to escape. They try to change outcomes without changing frequency, but form doesn't lead, energy does. And when you understand this, you stop trying to manipulate reality on the surface. You start mastering it from the source. Reality bends, not because you force it, but because you no longer resist it. You flow in a state where the field recognizes your vibration as dominant, not aggressive, not chaotic, but clear, and in clarity, the world softens. The illusion of solidity breaks. What once felt rigid becomes flexible. What felt distant moves closer, not because the world changed, but because your signal did. You don't need hours of meditation. You don't need elaborate rituals or perfect environments. Sometimes all it takes is 2 minutes. 2 minutes of becoming the witness of everything without becoming any of it. No fixing, no labeling, just watching. When you drop into the observer state with full presence and allow everything to arise, thoughts, emotions, body sensations, without attachment, something subtle but profound begins to occur. You're no longer generating chaos. You're becoming stillness. And stillness shifts reality faster than force. Joseph Murphy understood that the subconscious doesn't respond to noise. It responds to pattern, to clarity, to emotional tone. And when you practice observing without reacting, even for a short time, you begin to reprogram the subconscious without needing to speak to it directly. You quiet the interference. You open space. And that space allows a new vibration to take root, not because you constructed it, but because you got out of the way. Here's the practice. Sit, breathe, and allow. Don't fix your thoughts. Don't stop your emotions. Just witness. Feel the breath without trying to deepen it. Feel the body without trying to change it. Watch the thoughts rise and fall like clouds without chasing or resisting them. Stay in the seat of awareness, the one who sees. The mind will try to pull you back into identification. That's okay. Keep watching. Even the pull is something you can observe. And the moment you realize that you are not what you observe, you're free. In those 2 minutes, your vibration settles, not into neutrality, but into power, into the frequency of consciousness itself. And that frequency has no static, no distortion. It's pure signal. From this place, you begin to broadcast a field that doesn't ask for change. It causes it. People around you feel it. Circumstances reorganize around it. Life softens in its presence. Not because you forced anything, but because you became the space where resistance no longer lives. 2 minutes of this, done consistently, will do more than hours of effort fueled by resistance. Because vibration doesn't respond to time, it responds to presence. And presence, when held in observation, becomes the most magnetic state of all. Everything in life changes. Every sensation, every emotion, every thought. And yet, we resist. We cling to what we like and push away what we don't, building tension in the very place that's meant to flow. But when you begin to anchor yourself in the breath, not to control it, but to witness it, you start remembering something essential, that nothing is permanent, not even the states you fear. And in that remembering, resistance begins to fade. The breath is not just a tool for calm, it's a messenger of now. Each inhale is creation, each exhale is release, and in between the two, there is stillness. That stillness is the gate. Joseph Murphy spoke often of the inner silence that allows the subconscious to receive new instructions. And breath, when entered fully, becomes that silence in motion. It's the rhythm of surrender, not passive surrender, but conscious trust in the intelligence of life moving through you. Most people try to raise their vibration by effort, thinking better thoughts, avoiding discomfort, forcing clarity. But effort born from resistance only reinforces the same frequency. Breath bypasses that. Breath brings you into direct communion with what is. When you allow the breath to move through you without interference, you stop controlling the experience. And when control ends, energy rises, naturally, effortlessly, because now there is no tension blocking it. Impermanence is not a threat, it's a gift. It means that nothing you feel is final. It means that even the heaviest emotion will pass, as all things do, if you stop holding on to it. The breath teaches this with every cycle. And when you begin to live in rhythm with that truth, not just mentally but vibrationally, your field begins to soften. You no longer fight reality. You merge with it. And in merging, you begin to shape it from within. When you hold this space for 7 minutes, breathing, feeling, letting go, the shift is subtle but undeniable. The energy in your chest lightens, your thoughts quiet without force, and your body begins to trust you again. You're not just trying to raise your frequency. You've become the environment in which high frequency can live, There's a moment when the practice ends, and what's left is you. Not the version of you that struggles to stay aligned, not the one who checks in and out of their frequency depending on the day, but the one who has become the frequency. The signal is no longer something you try to send, it's something you are. This is where distortion ends. This is where reality no longer wavers in its response, because your identity, your vibration, and your field have merged into one. Joseph Murphy knew that repetition wasn't about doing more. It was about impressing the subconscious until the new image became automatic. But what happens when the vibration becomes so consistent, so familiar, that it no longer needs to be remembered? It becomes lived, embodied. And from that place, reality doesn't just mirror your thoughts or your words. It mirrors your being. This is the state most people never reach. Not because it's unreachable, but because they stop just short. They dip in and out of alignment, they seek signs, they wait for confirmation. But the field only responds fully when your frequency is no longer dependent on feedback, when it becomes unconditional, when you hold it even when nothing seems to be happening, especially then. That's when you prove to the universe that you're no longer just visiting the vibration. You are the vibration. In this space, you stop reaching for reality to change. You realize it already has. Because the version of you that lives at this frequency doesn't hope, doesn't wait, doesn't negotiate. It knows. It receives. It breathes in absolute coherence with the version of reality it has claimed. And from that identity, all things begin to arrange themselves, not as a reward, but as a reflection. You are no longer asking the world to bend. You've become the field that shapes it. You've become the reference point. And when that happens, time responds. Circumstances shift. People notice. Not because you've done more, but because you've finally stabilized into the self that never left, only waited to be remembered.